for those who say, oh, the president's starting a trade war, oh, and we've been in a trade war for the last 8 years, and we're losing.
Yeah, but getting our ass kicked. Welcome back to the War Room. Owen Shroyer, Roger Stone with you. The breaking news, breaking right now. Gary Cohn is out as Trump's top economic advisor. He announced he will be resigning. And, of course, this just adds on to the list. In fact, guys, you might even have that graphic, the graphic ready that we had last week when Hope Hicks resigned. So it's just a list of all of the resignations from Trump's administration and his cabinet. Again, it was Hope Hicks last week after she gets grilled for 9 hours, and then they twist her arm into saying white lies, and now she's out. And now today you've got Gary Cohn. So let me see here. Wait, let me just do some quick counting here. So that's now 18 members. 18 members of Trump's administration have resigned. I mean, Roger, what do you know? What have you heard? What's going on with Gary Cohn resigning as the top economic advisor?
Well, and this is a little ray of sunshine, if you ask me. I mean, Gary Cohn was always a very strange fit for the Trump White House. He's the former chairman of Goldman Sachs, a liberal Democrat who has no passion for tax cutting, an advocate for carbon emission credits, who was pushing very hard for the president to sign the Paris Climate Accords, which he valiantly decided not to do. It was Gary Cohn who told the New York Post that President Trump was coming to Paris to get smart and that his views on climate change were evolving. No, they weren't. So I read several things here. One is very clearly Cohn has lost the struggle to become the next White House chief of staff. He was among the handful of aides who were constantly mentioned as a potential successor to General John Kelly after General Kelly got embroiled in the Rob Porter affair, where he appears to have approved Porter's ascension to the White House staff, despite the fact that there were very credible accusations of spousal abuse by Mr. Porter. The appointment of Gary Cohn, who probably didn't vote for Donald Trump, certainly doesn't share his anti-interventionist, non-globalist worldview, would have been an unmitigated disaster. So I think that that this is good news. Now, Mr. Cohn was also passed over for chairman of the Federal Reserve, I guess he would have taken as a consolation prize. That appointment also now not happening. When you couple this with the departure that is now expected of General H.R. McMaster, a globalist with very clear ties to George Soros, who stepped into the vacuum created by the termination of that great patriot, General Mike Flynn, this is good news. Now, what we don't know is who will replace Cohn. Although I would recommend Stephen Moore of the Heritage Foundation. Steve Moore and Larry Kudlow, the supply side apostle from CNBC, were largely responsible for helping President Trump write his extraordinarily dynamic economic plan and for the deep tax cuts that have become the president's signature issue. Moore would be an exceptional replacement for Mr. Cohn and diametrically opposed in terms of his background. Moore is a Reaganite. Moore is a true conservative. Moore is a supply sider who believes in the president's tax cut and inversion plan.
And of course, you mentioned CNBC there. It's worth mentioning just the diametrically opposed reporting that you get from MSNBC and CNBC. It's really shocking where CNBC just brings you the news, mostly economic market news with a neutral perspective, where MSNBC is just everything is a hate Trump angle. But getting back to the Cohn resignation, what do you think, or did this resignation have anything to do with the recent tariffs announced by President Trump?
Well, it could. I mean, very clearly, Donald Trump's advocacy of tariffs as a tactic to force real free trade. In other words, for those who say, "Oh, the president's starting a trade war," oh, and we've been in a trade war for the last 8 years, and we're losing.
Yeah, we're getting our ass kicked.
So now, for the first time, the president is going to turn around and use the exact same tactics that are being used against us, against our trade partners. They're slapping tariffs on our goods abroad. We are not. We're giving them unfettered access to our markets to the detriment of American workers and American exporters. I don't think the president wants to enact tariffs, but he will if it's the only way he can force some of these markets open. This is very much like the situation in North and South Korea, where the media has said, "Oh, Trump is irresponsible. Trump is courting World War III. Trump is a madman. Trump is a maniac." Guess what? Tough talk is what got the North and South Koreans to the table. Does anyone believe the North Koreans would be talking today if they did not fear direct action by Donald Trump? So this is employing what President Richard Nixon and Dr. Henry Kissinger used to call the madman theory, which is they fear strength. They don't fear weakness. Contrast this with Barack Obama, who would draw a line in the sand and then step back and watch our adversaries step over it and do nothing.
And also think there's a sense of fear for the unpredictability that President Trump offers as well, that kind of has them stepping back a little bit as well, especially when you look at what Kim Jong-un has done, meeting with the South Koreans for the first time since he's become leader. And as far as those tariffs are concerned, I've seen arguments on both sides. I'm not going to act like I'm some expert on what's going to happen with these tariffs. I'm going to wait and see what comes to fruition. I'm going to wait and see what happens from these tariffs. And I have to say, you know, I trust Trump's instincts on going with this stuff. He's obviously a successful businessman. He understands international markets. And everything he's done so far, I'd say, has helped the economy. So we'll see if these tariffs do that as well. Roger Stone is with us for the remainder of the War Room here today. We're going to get into some more of the other news on the other side. He goes on Meets the Press, and he gets bullied. It's a bloodbath, but he still stands tall, and he comes with us on the War Room. We'll be right back on the other side. Don't go anywhere.
Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine. If you're interested in healthy thyroid, if you're interested in well-being, if you're interested in having a higher IQ, which this has been linked to, get your powerful Survival Shield X2 at InfoWarsStore.com.